quickly as possible, but we'll give council the time they need to address the issue. So we'll go ahead and call it to order, and we'll do a roll call.
Callers.
Present.
Deacon.
Here.
Tinsley.
Present.
Lester.
Here.
Mealy.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Spencer.
Here.
Spicer.
Present.
Wiseman. Present. Wright.
Present.
All
right. Item 3, adoption of the agenda. Any changes anyone proposes on the agenda?
Yes, I propose to move the minutes of the city council meetings August 7th off the consent agenda.
Okay.
Correction.
And then the only other ones I have the correction to the budget meeting of August 14th. Stated we would have a meeting today. I don't know if that was overly important that we needed to strike that since we're going to be meeting Thursday.
I'm sorry. That's not on the 14th minutes. I believe that's on the minutes from perhaps the 17th. And I don't think, I just went back and looked. I don't think that's on tonight's agenda.
Oh, I have the, you had the August 17th? Is that what you said, the August
I
17th?
believe it was, I'm sure it was due to my own mistake at the end of that meeting, but that was on the 17th.
Oh, I was looking at the 14th meetings. So
The 14th mentions the 17th.
So the next meeting, those minutes should be on the consent. So they'll be corrected before you see them.
thank you. Thanks.
So we have one item we're pulling off consent. Other than that, any other changes to the agenda?
Mayor, I move to adopt as corrected.
I second that.
All right, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, takes us to item 4, Cole County EMS Cares.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, we were made aware of a report by Chief Hoy a month or two ago about how the EMS system performed here in the community. And shortly thereafter, I received a phone call from a citizen that dovetailed really well into that report. So I asked Chief Hoy to come today and present that report and explain it and detail it. I know he's brought some staff with him to help him. So I introduced Chief Hoy from Cole County EMS.
Thank you very much. You did bring some friends with you.
I did. Lots of uniforms for you
Welcome.
tonight. Thank you.
You can just identify yourself and
Good evening,
the time is yours.
Chief Eric Hoy, Cole County EMS. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you on behalf of the commission for allowing us to come share some data with you tonight. I think our message is very powerful and highlights the efforts and resources that we put into our public safety system. As Chief Blomberg mentioned, due to recent events in our community, Chief Schofield and I thought it was an opportune time to share some performance information on one of the highest acuity incident types our organizations respond to. Sudden cardiac death. It's a term that sounds grim, but over the course of my career, I've come to realize that this is the most appropriate description of a grave medical condition that occurs when someone experiences a sudden cessation of cardiac activity. This description is far more pertinent than terms such as heart attack, code blue, or cardiac arrest that you may be familiar with. This is due to the fact that without intervention, irreversible organ death will occur in as little as 4 minutes after an individual's heart stops beating. Even more grave is that even with intervention, sudden cardiac death has a nationwide mortality rate of over 90%. As public safety professionals, we spend countless hours preparing for the opportunity to save a life. As elected officials, you allocate millions of dollars in funding to provide us the tools and infrastructure needed to perform said life-saving measures. However, it's often hard to quantify a return on those investments. Therefore, I'd like to introduce Kayla Reel and Dr. Julie Stilley from Missouri's Cardiac Arrest Registry to Enhance Survival, or MoCares. MoCares is a collaborative effort between hospitals, first responders, and university researchers to track responder performance and patient outcome. The MoCares team is here to provide a brief overview of their work and how the performance of our public safety agencies compare to nationwide performance. We did plan on having a little bit of a PowerPoint, but as we all know, we've had some technical difficulties throughout the day. So we have some handouts that we'll pass out to everybody, and they'll give you a little rundown of who they are and the data. And then I'll circle back when they're done.
Thanks. Welcome.
Thank you all so very much. It's always a privilege to be able to travel throughout the state and, come support our EMS agencies who are participants of CARES. So as mentioned, CARES is the Cardiac Arrest Registry to Enhance Survival. It's a nationally recognized registry that provides a comprehensive overview of a patient's out-of-hospital cardiac arrest event. For better terms, we get to collect this data, and through this data, we can see what happens from the beginning to the end of these arrests. That means we're able to see any kind of bystander intervention that was performed. We get to see what EMS did on scene, what they performed during transportation. If they then bring their patient to a receiving facility, arguably the most important is we get final neurological outcomes at discharge from those receiving facilities. So it's not only about saving someone's heart and saving their life, but it also becomes a part of saving their brain as well. So CARES follows a statewide model, so any EMS agency in the state can participate in our programming and collect data. In Missouri, we've also taken on a very public health focused approach to our program. It's called a community-based participatory approach, essentially meaning that we want a better understanding of what our community needs and what they want for CPR training. And we have the data that can provide and guide changes. So for instance, back in 2021, we found through our CARES reporting that there was only about an 8% chance that a Black woman would receive any kind of bystander intervention for a witnessed cardiac arrest event. We thought this was incredibly horrifying. So through our own programming, we have started implementing disparity training into our hands-only CPR programming. So we talk about disparities associated. We talk about how it's not very often, unfortunately, that women receive bystander CPR, that someone of a different race receives CPR. This is something very important to us and something we're wanting to push. So it's through data like this where we're able to then take to our communities and overall really improve survival from cardiac arrest. We have multiple partnerships throughout the state as well to help guide our programming. For instance, we started working with a foundation so we can provide hands-only CPR training in multiple languages. We're also working with our state 911 board to work through a grassroots effort to build an AED registry. So that folks, when they call dispatch should automatically know where their nearest AED is located. We also found through our data that even just the application of an AED by a bystander can triple someone's chance of survival. So again, ways in which we use our data to measure but also improve how we care for these patients. We also partner with the MOCAM Resuscitation Academy so that we are able to provide high-quality CPR conference in which EMS agencies, hospitals, and community members can come and learn about how to improve their performance when it comes to cardiac arrest care. That is my general overview of CARES. So I would like you all to focus now on our Cole County EMS 2022 CARES report. This comes directly from their CARES data. The first section here covers your demographics. So for the patients in Cole County, looking at a mean age of 64 years. Traditionally, we have more males having cardiac arrest than females, and most of our arrests are occurring in the home. We were expecting to see differences in this related to our numbers from COVID in 2022, but actually the numbers were about the same. So through this data, we've actually tried to increase households learning CPR since most of our arrests are occurring in the home. The next location of arrests we see most often in Cole County are through nursing homes, then public and commercial buildings, and then healthcare facilities. Next, we have a basic overview of different rates, non-traumatic rates. So as you can see, Cole County surpasses their overall survival rate comparative to Missouri, 16.7% compared to 10% in the state. They're bystander witnessed. So this is when a bystander actually sees someone having a cardiac arrest. So they have a 30% chance of survival in Cole County. Even as unwitnessed, we see Cole County also surpassing those Missouri state numbers quite significantly at 14.3%. Bystander initiated CPR is a little bit lower than the Missouri rate, but it is something that's very easy to work on through our hands-only CPR programming. And public AED use, again, surpassing the Missouri state level at 22.2%. Next, I want you to look at these Epstein survival and Epstein bystander rate. Epstein, we basically describe an EMS as honestly a best case scenario for us. Someone witnesses someone have a cardiac arrest, and they are found in a shockable rhythm. So in Cole County, if that were to happen, from the 2022 data, they had a 66.7% chance of survival, which is incredible. And then we've included the Epstein bystander rate. So this is a bystander witnesses someone have a cardiac arrest. They provide intervention, and they may receive a shock from an AED. And that was a 100% survival rate. Again, absolutely incredible, but that is what the data shows. And it shows exactly how incredible Cole County is performing, and honestly working with their community members as well when it comes to cardiac arrest. In 2022, they also had 5 patients who were discharged from the hospital with positive neurological outcomes. That includes 2 patients who had witnessed arrests and 3 patients that had unwitnessed arrests. So we're incredibly proud of Cole County for that. At the bottom of the infographic, we have a few sites that you can refer to for the full annual report, and more about our programming at mocares.org. But overall, we are incredibly grateful to be working with Cole County EMS, and I'm hoping that you can see through this data that they are doing incredible work for your community. So thank you so very much. If anyone has any questions, I will happily take questions as well.
Any questions? Chief Hoy.
Thank you. Thank you to the Mose Cares team for that. And one thing that I just want to make perfectly clear is that while our agency, as the EMS agency, is ultimately the liaison with CARES, this data is reflective of our entire public safety system, from law enforcement to our partners at Jeff City Fire. This data would not be possible without their assistance and participation. A couple areas that I wanted to reaffirm. If you're a victim of sudden cardiac death in Cole County, your chance of survival is almost double of the state and national average. Also, 33% of our incidents of sudden cardiac death in 2020 occurred in public settings. However, our percentage of CPR initiated by bystanders is well below the national average. Therefore, it is critical that we as community leaders continue to build a more resilient community through outreach and public education. To close my presentation tonight, I'd like to call attention to how easy it is to disassociate what this data truly represents. For those of us in administration, this data represents performance. However, for some, it represents something much different. June 18th, 2023, Father's Day. This data, quote unquote, became all too real for 2 families in our community. Thanks to the quick intervention of bystanders, the professional response from 911 communicators, law enforcement, fire, and EMS, all of which are represented here tonight, we achieved what I would deem a truly unprecedented outcome. 2 fathers on Father's Day surviving sudden cardiac death in our city in a span of less than 8 hours. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite Meredith Holliday and her family to share what our investment as elected officials and public safety officers has meant to their family.
Welcome. Just identify yourself again, but thanks for being here.
I'm Meredith Holliday. I'm going to start this off with a quote I ran across a few days ago. All things work together for the greater good. I'll give you a rundown, a backstory of our Father's Day weekend. My son had a baseball tournament in Columbia. My dad wasn't feeling good, so he told me that he wasn't going to be able to make it. But to our surprise, he actually surprised us Friday evening by showing up at my house to stay the weekend with us so he could watch my son's games. And he actually lives in California, Missouri. Saturday was spent watching several of my son's games. They won all those games, which led them to the championship game Sunday morning. His game was set for 8 a.m., and we were supposed to leave no later than 6:45. We were all dressed and getting ready to leave the house when my daughter, who was sitting next to my dad on the couch, ran to get my son and said something was wrong with Grandpa. My son then started banging on my door to let me know that something was wrong as well. I immediately ran out to check on him and noticed his hand over his chest and he was gasping for air. I said something to him and he didn't or couldn't respond. I immediately called 911, which was at 6:37 that morning. By 6:38, the 911 operator had already dispatched the fire department and EMS. About a minute later, the fire truck was en route and arrived at my house only 3 minutes after making that phone call. EMS arrived just 2 minutes shortly after the fire department. They administered 2 shocks and found his pulse at 6:47. He had suffered an acute stroke and went into cardiac arrest at the same time. The total time it took from my 911 call to the arrival of everyone was less than 5 minutes. We later found out that they had lost him again en route to the hospital and then once again at the hospital. They never gave up. They never gave up on him, and because of their fast arrival, my dad came out of this deficit-free, and from my research, and as he mentioned, is almost unheard of. Because of that, he's now sitting in this room, and I don't think I will ever be able to say thank you enough times. From the 911 operator, the fire department, the EMS, the first responders, the paramedic, they all work together for the greater good. To be grateful for the 911 system Jefferson City has would be an understatement. So to all of you that were there, and I don't really remember faces too much, I remember a couple of people, I am beyond grateful. So all of you, thank you, and thank you so much. That's all I have to say.
Very good. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
So, in closing, I'd like to recognize the individuals that did participate in the response to Mr. Holliday's medical emergency. So, to demonstrate how widely impacted and the agencies that are involved, I'll introduce my folks, and then I'd ask Chief Wilde and Chief Blomberg to recognize both their firefighters and their communications operators that they have in the room. So from my organization, 911 communicator Olivia Hill. Go ahead, Stan. 911 communicator Tom Egan. Paramedic Katie Maples. EMT Kelly Snyder. And EMS Battalion Chief Chip Smack.
I think real quick before introducing my 911 operators, I want to talk about very briefly about the efforts that we put in to achieve a 911 system that's efficient and effective. You can imagine trying to pull together 3 or 4 agencies for one event and the amount of coordination that it takes to achieve an outcome, a positive outcome like this. A lot of that has to do with the technology that we employ. I mean, we're all trained to do our jobs and do it very well. But you can imagine whenever you're working city government, county government, sometimes there's a division there, not necessarily financial or theoretical, but it's just two different agencies trying to do the same thing. So we've done a lot of work over the past several years to make sure that our 911 system is efficient. We've just done some 911 upgrades over the past year or two and invested in that to make sure that our CAD calls go straight to 911 or to EMS so that they can receive that information quicker. And when minutes count and seconds count, we can see the benefit of our investments. So I wanted to say thank you to the city council for that, for understanding when we say we need something or we want something, that we're not doing it for fluff. Every single day that we come to work, we want to have positive outcomes like the one we had here. So without any further ado, I'd like to recognize communications operators Beth West and Samantha Latimer. Working in our 911 center, they receive every single 911 call that comes into the center, and then they have to triage that and get it out to the right agencies very quickly. And during this event, they were able to transfer that to EMS and fire simultaneously to get people on the scene. So I thank them for their efforts and thank you for being here tonight.
Well, I don't have anything as eloquent prepared as Chief Hoy or Chief Wilby, but when Ms. Holiday contacted us, it was a great example of our system, how well it works. So I wanted that to be shown to you guys, and I'll recognize Fire Driver Mitch Scoggins and Fire Driver Jason Carr, who was on that ladder company that day. So.
So again, thank you for allowing us to share this important information with you all, and also for allowing the commission to join in a de facto joint session to recognize the efforts that have been extended here. So thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you to our commissioners. I know they have made a huge commitment to this. We've got a nice new facility popping out of the ground across the street. So I think this community is very fortunate. We have individuals that have made a commitment to say this is going to be a great place to live, and it's one of the things that hopefully we're doing right in the community. And we're going to address a lot of important issues tonight, but nothing more important than lives. We haven't done a lot of pictures here, but I would, if you could have all the uniformed officers and the two ladies come up front. Chief's going to go down, and I'll ask council, we'll stay back here, but we'd like to get a picture. And the commissioners, if you would join as well. If you're allowed to be in the picture, I don't know, you're allowed to be.
It was posted, we're good.
No, you're front center. You're front center.
They're gonna get up there, let me up front, Jenny. We don't have blade on this side, all we have to do is help them breathing. Yeah, we can have help.
I think center.
You're in the center, Mr. Holiday.
You're front and center.
Just go down.
I'm being close.
Yep.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Sure, everybody can use it.
Well,
This is why we do it.
so far.
What I've done without you.
Thanks again, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to item 5, public hearings. A, adopting 2023-24 city operating budget. It's Bill 2023-40.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri adopting a budget and personnel classification plan for the city for the period of November 1, 2023 to October 31, 2024, and appropriating money in the city treasury to pay the cost of operating the city government during that period in accordance with the budget.
Thank you. As the clerk indicated, this is for the FY 2024 operating budget. The total general fund proposal is $39.129 million with additional funding for other funds and for capital project funds, bringing the total for FY 2024 City of Jefferson budget to $79.286 million.
All right, so we will go ahead and open the public hearing. We do not have anybody signed up to speak. We'll go ahead and close the hearing. This bill is introduced, so there's no action tonight.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Hensley.
Thank you. I request that this bill be placed on the informal calendar.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Item B, establishing the rate of taxation for property taxes. This is a pending bill 2023-029.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri providing for the levy of city taxes and establishing the rate of taxation for the City of Jefferson, Missouri for the calendar year 2023.
Ms. Barrett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. State statute requires that cities establish their property tax rates on an annual basis. Each political subdivision is required to hold a public hearing to officially adopt the tax rates and to file such rates with the county clerk's office by September 1st. These rates are computed based upon changes in the assessed valuation and also in inflation calculated with CPI index. The initial information is prepared by the county and the calculations are verified by the Missouri State Auditor's Office. The proposed FY 2024 budget has been prepared based on the property tax rate of 0.46 for the general fund and 0.0961 for the fireman's retirement rate for a total rate of 0.5561. This is the same rate as the current fiscal year FY 23, so the proposed tax rate would stay the same.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this item as well. No one is signed up. Anybody to speak on behalf? Anybody in opposition? All right, we will go ahead and close the public hearing. Any questions or comments from council? Okay, we're ready for a roll call vote then.
Allers,
Yes.
Deacon,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Mealy,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Wiseman, Wright.
All right, that takes us to item 5C, approving the rate of the gross receipt utility tax. Ms. Perry.
City Code Section 17-207 requires the city to review their gross receipts utility or GRUT tax rate on an annual basis. The proposed FY 2024 budget has been prepared based on the gross receipt utility tax of 6% for those engaged in the business of selling and distributing natural gas, manufactured gas, steam, electricity, or both gas and electricity, and 7% for those engaged in the business of furnishing telephone service or telecommunications service. This is the same rate as the current fiscal year, so the proposed tax rates would stay the same. City Code Section 17-207 states, after a public hearing, if the rate to be levied for the subsequent year is different from that currently levied, the City Council shall by ordinance establish a new gross receipts tax levy for the subsequent fiscal year. The existing gross receipts tax levy shall continue if no change in the rate is directed by council.
Okay, We will go ahead and open the public hearing on item C, the gross receipt utility tax. No one rushing to the microphone. Any in opposition? All right, we will close the public hearing. This does not require action, correct?
For no change in the existing rate, no action is required.
Okay. Thank you very much. Takes us to item 6A, appointments by the mayor. We have two names before you. You need action on those if you want. I got a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Presentations from staff, consultants, or invited guests. Item 7.
So, Ms. Mayor, I forgot to mention this during the work session, but I did want to make a quick announcement. We received notification from Republic Solid Waste today that they're going to be moving their collection times from 6 a.m. to 5 a.m. So we sent out notice and posted it on our social media, letting the residents know. And they also sent out some robocalls. This is due to the excessive heat. So hopefully it'll just last 1 week. We want to put that out there in case you get calls. They will be starting at 5 a.m. in residential areas. Pardon me for not mentioning that there.
Nope, Chief briefed me that you were going to mention that, so thank you very much. All right, item 8, announcements by mayor, council, and staff in regard to council committees. First one, admin committee, administration.
Our next committee meeting will be September 6th, provided all goes well, at 7:30 a.m.
Councilman Kinsley?
I'll take budget and finance together, if that's all right. The normal finance committee monthly meeting, which was scheduled for this Thursday, the 24th at 7:30, has been canceled. But don't worry, you can get your fix at noon for the budget committee meeting, which is very similar to what the finance committee would be with their and it's in this room. So next budget committee meeting, noon, Thursday, the 24th, in this room. And that'll be our final noon meeting for the budget committee. The following meetings will be the 28th, a week from tonight, here at 5:30 p.m. And then the 31st as well. It's Thursday next week, 5:30 p.m. in this room. Thank you.
I think, Ms. Perry, you sent out some information to council kind of in regard to the budget meetings and
I did.
reorganization of discussion.
We anticipate that there's going to be some variation to the presentation schedule because we do have an additional item that we need to speak to council in regards to health insurance that will have a very strict timing deadline that we're going to have to insert the health insurance first and then go back to the department meetings.
So if you didn't see that email, you should have received it. It's got some background information. Public safety.
Our next meeting will be August 31st at 7:30 in the police training room.
Sir. And Public Works, Councilman Spencer.
Our next meeting will be September 14th at 7:30 in the morning here in the council chambers.
Any other announcements you need to be aware of? All right, item 9, presentations from the gallery, and I think we have 3 listed. Okay. First one.
Lee Alford.
Lee Alford, Mr. Alford.
Good day.
Welcome. Just identify yourself again.
My name's Lee Alford. I own and operate Alpha Tree Service. Been part of this community for 38 years or more. Been in the industry, tree service industry, for close to 40 years. Started out as a very young man. This is regarding the yard waste disposal contract stuff. Regarding that, obviously, I've asked questions here in the past. I was told it was part of the process. And finally learned during the minutes of the meeting that were published last week that Cordy Tree Service got the bid. We knew that back in April. Why did it take 4.5 months to come up with an answer? And literally every time I would ask, it was part of the process, part of the process. That's my number one gripe. The second gripe is this yard waste site's going to be across the river in the old Cedar City, which is now called North Jefferson City. It's in a floodplain. And that's the number one problem with it. The second problem is everybody in Jefferson City is going to be hauling their yard waste, if they use the facility, is going to be going across the tri-level and across Highway 54 bridge at 70+ mile-an-hour traffic. If you've ever been around 179 and see Highway where the yard waste site is now, on, I think it's South Ridge, there's always stuff on the road. Always, always. I don't care what time of the year it is, anything. There's always stuff on the road. Can you imagine hitting a limb or a bag of leaves at 70 mile an hour, which is probably pretty slow on that bridge on a Friday afternoon? There's going to be wrecks. It's just going to happen. There's, you know, that place is already dangerous enough as it is. And you got, I don't want to name anybody, but if you got grandpa with a load of limbs that put a piece of binder twine on a big load of limbs going across the bridge, he gets to the site, half his limbs are gone, he's not going to go looking for it. You know, it's laying in the highway somewhere. And I've seen this for the last 10 years on C Highway, and that's not a high-speed area. 179 is a little bit higher speed area, but it's stuff that can be avoided. You get on a bridge, you can't avoid any of that. And then, obviously my bid was not the low bid on this, but it had two sites, one on the east end of town, one on the west end of town, which made it convenient for the citizens of Jefferson City on low-speed streets. One of the sites is 42 acres. That is room to expand. We have a weather event, whether it be tornado, ice storm, whatever, windstorm. We've got room to expand. We got room to breathe there. We won't be locking the gates. We won't be telling people, well, you got to go find some other place because we can't take it. That won't happen with us. And then, you know, if it's a money issue, let's just not do it at all. Let's just not have a yard waste site at all. Because I think if we have one incident on that bridge and it gets back to the city of Jefferson because it was going out to the yard waste site across the river, it will probably pay for all 5 years of my yard site in one incident. And how many incidents are we going to have before we decide maybe this wasn't a good idea? So that's my point of view. I just think it's a really, really bad idea. You know, if you've been across that bridge, and how many wrecks have we dealt with on that bridge? And some of them are bad, some of them are lucky. What was it last week? We had a cattle truck turned over and it blocked highway for 5 hours. So just saying, I wouldn't do it. If we're, you know, not going to keep it in the city, let's not do it at all. And that's just my point of view. So my time's just about up anyway. Thank you, folks. If you got any questions, ask.
We're on east side. Where was your?
East McCarty Street, about a block west of the old fire station there. It used to be the Diamond, I think it's the lower lot where Diamond Equipment had their tractors and stuff.
Yeah.
It used to be in a floodplain, but as of, well, between 2 weeks ago and today, it is 6 foot higher now, so it will never be underwater. But that site in itself would never be an actual functioning yard waste site. I mean, it would be a collection site, a drop-off site, and then if the citizens wanted mulch or chips or compost, it would be available to them free to the public. So we would transfer from there to the Horner Road site where the actual grinding and composting would be done. So there wouldn't be any loud machinery or anything like that there. So, but anyway, anybody else?
All right, thank you very much. Then, Mr. Cordy?
I'm Josh Cordy. I appreciate how respectful that was. So I would like to first address the video that I saw at City Council meeting about a month ago where Ray Wallace and I are accused of collusion to get this bid. So number one, my bid was put in April 28th on the last day. So my wife lost a twin. It was a lot of work putting it together and thinking about it, and it took until that time to get it done. So if anybody knew who they were going to choose, it wasn't our bid. And then after that, I didn't know that we were going to get it until I found out, well, I had a meeting when people called me in, but the timeline he's talking about, we didn't know we were going to get the bid. So this is news to me. The last person who would ever do that is Ray Wallace. Ray Wallace retired in April. So whenever your bid tabulation meeting was, Ray didn't work there anymore. And I expect an apology and a retraction from Lee Alford. And if I don't get that, then I'm going to do whatever I have to do. I'm going to start out with the sunshine requests, and then I'm going to go into depositions and subpoenas, and I'll get all the information and provide it to everybody, because, and I want my kids to hear this, your reputation is worth more than $1 million contract. So I have 90,000 hours in this business, and it's hard. It's hard work, it's dirty, and it's hot. And I didn't do all that to have newspaper articles float around. And I understand we have context here, but 5 years from now, when people read stuff in the newspaper, no one will know what actually happened, and you just go by what's written, and it never dies on the internet. So neither Ray nor I had anything to do with that. Ray, from what I understand, is a different division of the city. He was a city forester. I don't think he had anything to do with tabulating that bid. And I didn't know who was involved with it until they called me in for a meeting. And even then, they asked a bunch of questions, and it wasn't clear to me that we were actually going to get it. So the first I've seen my name on this is the minutes of the meeting tonight, which my friend showed me on his phone when I got in here. But I'll either have to clear my name or I want an apology and a retraction. So, and I wrote down all the things that were said, but I just left it at home. So, in regards to crossing the bridge, part of the reason I'm bidding on this is when I move my business into the city limits in a floodplain, which is not an easy thing to do. So I move it into the city limits of Jefferson City. The person who had the original tree trimming contract, which got brought up a month ago, and that would be Lee Alford, I believe, when they did tree work for the city, they would haul all their material down into Cedar City. And so does the city. So the city hauls their chips and their large material down into Cedar City because they're not allowed to dump large material, anything bigger than 6 inches, over at the current mulch site. And I don't know if they're supposed to be able to dump it over there or not. That's the city's business. I really don't have a problem with the people running the current site. And I'm really sorry that I have to bid against these people, and it has to be so competitive. But I guess everybody can't have the contract. So anyway, this stuff gets dumped in Cedar City. So when we have the flood, and this came up at the meeting, I had a meeting about a building I built. I can promise you this. Number one, we ground up all of our logs. And number two, all the debris that was on the property afterwards came from upstream, and some of it came from the site that the city dumped large debris on, not to mention trash that people would just go in there and illegally dump. And they still go down there thinking they can do that. So after the flood, we cleaned up the city streets, and then I dug out all the ditches and cleaned out the culverts because I found out that whole basin doesn't drain unless you clean the culverts out in front of our property. And then I went over and I cleared out the trees and all that debris and the trash, and the city showed up with a dump truck and loaded up what was left. We had a controlled burn. So I spent about $6,000 cleaning that up. So I do have an interest in the multi-site contract and the tree trimming contract, and part of that interest is just not having debris in Cedar City. But the flip side of that is the city and Lee Alford, they were hauling material into Cedar City. So if it's been a problem on the bridge, it's the first I've heard of it, because that went on for years. Route C, I drive down Route C. I don't see any debris around there. I'm not saying that that's not possible. I think the problem we have on the bridge is people running into each other and cattle trailers flipping over and fuel trucks exploding. But I don't know that it's leaves and grass and little branchy material. So, my thought was on that, even if there is an elevated risk, it's offset by the fact that, and this is one of the reasons my business is down there, there's a nice exit ramp, and then you cross the bridge, and there are all these streets where you can route traffic and line everybody up so that they don't wind up on Beef Drive or out on Route C, which I think was an issue with the old place. And that's not their fault, but from what I understand, it gets pretty busy, and you have to have a place to put traffic. So I felt like that was a 50-50. But I've heard this argument about the bridge for a long time. It's a lot of material went across the bridge, and it was in the back of open dump trucks.
Well, we appreciate your comments. I'm going to cut you off.
Okay, no problem.
The timer went off. We appreciate you coming.
Okay.
Any questions?
Can I rebuttal that?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all we have signed up for.
That's all we had signed up for specific bills and resolutions.
Okay. We'll move to item 10, consent agenda. I do believe we have Councilman West.
Yes, I move the minutes off the consent agenda to report correct.
All right, so you're pulling item 10A off of the consent. All right, that leaves items B through F. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Mayor, I would move to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Thank you. All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Councilman Lester, item A, your
The
editorial change.
Yeah, the correction is just on page 2 of the minutes, just after the notice about Councilman Wiseman joining. Donna Dietz, she was representing Eastside Business Association, not and the resolution was from that organization in favor of Monroe Street. That's all.
Okay, so with that, you're moving adoption of the minutes as corrected?
I would move, no, yes.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Before you, the corrected minutes, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, bills introduced, 2023-040 has already been taken up, 2023-041.
An ordinance of the city of Jefferson, Missouri, amending chapter 19 by the addition of parking spots on Dunklin Street and Marshall Street.
Mr. Maresh.
Thank you, Mayor. As the clerk indicated, this would add 10 additional parking spaces in our code along Dunklin Street. There are 7 near Marshall, 3 by Cherry, but this was an item that was brought up at our Traffic and Transportation Committee a couple different times and discussed, looking for ways to help this area of the city out for more parking. Several years ago when Lafayette was reworked, the striping was made in such a way that we had to reduce some of those spaces. So going through this process, we found that perhaps we could stripe that slightly different and get these 10 additional spaces for the neighborhood in that area. You have to answer your questions.
Any questions? Thank you. 2023-042.
An ordinance of the city of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with GWH Landscaping Contracting LLC in the amount of $79,254.60 for the Creek Bank Stabilization Lake Valley Drive project.
Mr. Moraes.
Thank you. As Clark indicated, construction contract with GWH, and they will be building a retaining wall to help us with some erosion issues related to a sanitary sewer. So this will be paid for by the wastewater fund, and Cole County will be partnering with us to do some handrails in the area.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, takes us 2023-043. 43.
An ordinance of the city of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with 40 Enterprises LLC for the operation of a public yard waste drop-off and compost site.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll have a short presentation too, which will come up here in a second, I think. But this is a bill that's going to authorize the wording of the compost and yard waste contract to Porting Enterprises LLC. And I don't know if we have that presentation, but we'll go ahead and get started with some of the overview. So this is for a contract that would start November 1st. The current contract, which is a 5-year contract, expires October 31st of this year. It's currently awarded to All Seasons Landscaping and Construction. We had 3 bids for this new contract this year. After scoring was completed, Porting Enterprises LLC was awarded the bid for the contract. Again, it would be a 5-year term with the current term beginning November 1st of this year, and would be 4 automatic renewals. That is subject to appropriation by council for funding to fund that contract each year. First year cost is a little over $195,000. I think last year's cost for our current contract is about $201,000 for comparison. And some of the features of that basically is continuing on some of the features from the current contract, which basically no cost for dropping off or materials, compost, or mulch for residents, unless they do require assistance to load. So if you're out there loading it yourself, there's no cost to you to drop it off or pick up. Can't advance it, thank you. All right, and some information on the site. As was noted earlier here in the presentations from the audience, the site is located on the north side of the river. So it's at 1129 Cedar City Drive. A couple of notes on some of the changes from the current contract. There was some scaling back of hours. So the current contract does have some Sunday hours. This contract will not have any Sunday hours. And no Saturday hours during winter time, which is basically end of November through approximately March. The reduction of hours was contemplated in the RFP to give a little bit more flexibility for offers to reduce costs to the city. So we actually asked people to be a little more creative with their proposals, don't necessarily propose something that's exactly as we have it now. We are looking for cost-saving opportunities. A couple of the benefits, though, out of this contract was there are, well, I'll start with size limits up for residents. So the size of limbs doesn't change, so you can drop off limbs no greater than 6 inch in diameter, but that's now extended. You can do it in 6-foot lengths as opposed to 4-foot lengths, so a little bit larger material there for residents. Also, it eliminates limits on loads to the site from city departments, primarily streets and parks. There was a 35 truckload limitation at the current, or within the current contract, and also the current restrictions on size apply to staff as well. And so most of those restrictions are now gone. So parks can actually take larger materials there up to, there's no limits on diameter of limbs. And I think I should have put on there is restriction up to 10-foot sized limbs. So much larger material should reduce parks' need to actually compost and chip a lot of their own materials. So it should realize some cost savings for the park department on top of the reduced costs for the site. If we can go to the next slide. So just kind of a quick aerial overview of the site. As you can see, located there on Cedar City Drive with Highway 63 there on the north side of the site. They have two parcels there. He has a current operation kind of east side. The west side would be the location of compost material storage going forward. And we'll go to the last one. This was included in the packet, the proposal, so it's kind of a quick schematic on how the public would access the site. There will be signage requirements on site, directing traffic, also posted hours of operation for residents so they know exactly when they can drop materials off. As was stated earlier, there's a lot of roadways there that kind of lend themselves to traffic management if things did become very congested in that area. I will state this bid. The bidding process put a lot of weight on the cost. It was about 45% of the bid weight. This proposal was approximately $300,000 less than the next lowest bid. So our recommendation at this point is to award the bid to Porting Enterprises LLC. We'd be happy to answer any questions. And I do have staff Mr. Grellner from our Environmental Health Services, who is also, his division is responsible for managing that contract in case there's additional questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Councilman Allers?
How long has this city been doing composting for the citizens? Do you know how far back that goes?
I think some institutional knowledge. I know it's more than 10 years. Would you say?
I think back to 1992.
31 years.
Do we know how many people use it a year?
A lot.
I think we have an idea of volume. So it's 23,000.
24,000 cubic yards, probably between 1,500 and 2,000 a month, so times that by 12.
Landscaping.
It'll vary basic on the months, you know. Some months are more high usage than other months.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We'll move to item 12, bills pending. Item A, 2023-027.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with NS Corporation in the amount of $266,845.76 for the removal of interior workings of the transit bus wash and the installation of the new bus wash system.
All right.
Thank you. Clerk indicated a contract to basically replace the guts of our wash system down at CM. It's not only transit utilize it, but other city vehicles utilize it as well. And the majority of this is grant funded through transit, 80%. That grants approximately $213,000 and change. And be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Marash? All right, item B, 2020.
Roll call vote.
You probably had to do that. I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself.
Deacon. Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Neely. Schwartz. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Item B, 2023-029 has already been taken up. Takes us to 2023-031.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a $192,521 agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Metropolitan Transportation Planning Services for the period of November 1, 2023 to October 31, 2024, reflecting consolidated planning grant funds as approved in the CAMPO FY 2024 Unified Planning Works Program.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is our annual authorization for a agreement with, for our consolidated planning grant agreement with Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. It will fund our capital facilities or activities. That amount is matched by the City of Jefferson in the amount of $35,000. We contribute 75% of the 80-20 match, and we are recommending approval of these.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, roll call vote, please.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Bill passes.
Thank you very much. 2023-032.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of sewage system revenue bond series 2023 in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $4 million, prescribing the form and details of said bonds and the covenants and agreements to provide for the payment and security thereof, and authorizing certain actions and documents and prescribing other matters relating thereto.
Mr. Morris.
Thank you. As clerk indicated, this would be a $4 million bond sale of our $44 million authority that the voters gave the city for wastewater bonds. The sales happened earlier today. Robert Baird of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I believe, was the low bidder. Interest rate, I think, 4.04%. And our consultant is here to help answer any particular questions. And I probably should have asked this earlier. Is there a substitute needed? Todd is here as well.
And also Hayden Crumpton is
Hayden's
here
back
with
here,
Gilmore
yes.
Health.
What was your question, Mr. Moran?
Is there a substitute needed for these names? I didn't think of that earlier. I'm sorry. Will we normally do this?
There's not a substitute, because
No.
it's a certificate of file.
Okay, very good, thank you. Just clarify that.
So the ordinance in front of council is accurate. Any questions from council?
There are the list of projects that are gonna be funded through the first $4 million.
Sorry?
There are a list of projects that are gonna be funded for the first $4 million.
Yeah, and if, I have Eric Seaman here, our wastewater director, could go through those if you would like.
You want information on that?
I can do it in written, it's nothing that I have to look at for sure. I would like to have that information just for me.
Yeah, one of the big ones I know that's really of interest, about 25% of this is, or a little more than that, I believe, is going to go into pipelining. So that basically is a lining project that we're getting ready to let. So I believe that's over $1 million project of this $4 million, and that renews many miles of pipe throughout the city. Of course, then there's open cut and traditional type projects as well.
Okay. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Lester?
Aye.
Neely?
Aye.
Schwartz? Spencer?
Aye.
Spicer?
Aye.
Wiseman?
Aye.
Wright?
Aye.
Allers?
Aye.
Deacon?
Aye.
Hensley?
Aye.
Bill passes.
Okay, item C, 2023-033.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending the 2022-2023 budget of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by supplementally appropriating additional funds within the general fund.
Chief Weldon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been several years now that everybody's become aware of the challenge in hiring police officers and 911 operators. That struggle sort of continues to this day. I want to thank the council because over the past several years, we've made some strides, including the passing of the public safety tax so we could increase salaries. We increased salaries for 911 operators. The council's done a lot to help facilitate the hiring of new employees. The challenge right now is telling that story, and how do we get that information out to prospective applicants? How do we sell people in that interest of that profession or that line of work currently to come to Jefferson City to do that job? Because I would stand here and tell you that being in Jefferson City is the best place you can be a police officer or 911 operator. So considering that, last fall, early winter, we commissioned a study that was a brand analysis and marketing strategy analysis so that we can figure out what is the best way to get our story out there. Just like Nike when they created the Just Do It theme, we've got to come up with that strategy to hook people to buy our product, which is working for our agency. We commissioned that study through High Five Communications. There are costs involved in the placement. A portion of that cost is product development to include video production, photography, radio ad production, and that sort of thing. And then how do we place that? How do we utilize social media to the greatest extent to make it effective? Coming out of that study, High Five Communications gave us a marketing strategy and also a rough budget that they thought would fulfill that our goals, which is to get our message out there that Jeff City is the best place to work. And that number and that budget came up to around $50,000. So the request tonight is to request a supplemental appropriation of $50,000 from the general fund to be applied towards recruiting and marketing for our agency. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief?
Someone way in the back. There's a lady.
You'll have to come up here if you're going to ask a question. And please identify yourself.
My name is Sasa Depp. My question for the chief is, has he sought outside in the community how to connect with the community to encourage recruitment? Yes. Or is so you've spoke with agencies like BCB, maybe the rehab centers, all the churches, that kind of stuff?
I'm actually on the board of BCB. I speak with them regularly.
So my question is you spoke with places like RACT, who's asked, or myself, because I know I've reached out many times, when are you going to get your self-defense program in? When you have, if you are on the board for BCB, they have an awesome program that you guys could be utilizing self-defense to teach women and children. So you want to spend money, put it in the community of resources and putting flyers out to the community instead of spending money to promote outside the community. I'm just wondering is, I've reached out many a time, so I know I'm part of the community, and you're wanting to spend money, put it into the community instead of putting it outside the community to pull in. You can get more from in the community. But I'm saying is, I'm here because I'm tired of hearing outside, but I see inside the community hearing it. So my question is you say this, but really, where is it being seen?
I spread that message at every meeting that I go to, that the biggest challenge we face right now is hiring police officers and 911 operators. And I caveat that with, if anybody at a local meeting that I go to knows of anybody that's interested in the job, please send them my way. I would love to have them along for a ride along. I would love to have them come sit in our 911 center. It's our biggest challenge right now, honestly, is hiring good employees. So every meeting I go to, in my first year as chief of police, everybody asked what was my biggest challenge. It was hiring quality employees, and I followed it up with.
But if the community doesn't trust your officers, and you have awesome CIT officers, you have awesome officers who interact with officers, but if the community doesn't trust your officers, doesn't trust your response and how you interact, and you do have officers who have been poorly interacting with the community, people aren't going to want to come to Jeff City if you don't have ones that don't have the proper training. You got to start with what you got. And you're wanting to bring more in. You need to train better what you already got. And you need more the CIT officers. So if you're going to spend money, my thing is work to train better what you got. Because what you have right now, it's a lot of reports that are not being said, and you're not listening to the community of what you need.
Yeah, I was generous to allow you to make comments. You're signed up under 15.
Oh, I was just asking this, what is he doing to reach the community? He says he's doing that, but I can
signed up under item 15. You're welcome to make those comments at that time.
All right.
Councilman Lester.
I know there's a number of different approaches in this taking, which I applaud. It's just one asked if there's a post-implementation evaluation of which one of those or how effective those were in recruiting successful applicants.
Especially whenever it comes to the social media, the targeted social media strategy, there will be a way to track the number of views. So specific advertisement through LinkedIn that goes to people involved in the criminal justice field. We've talked about specifically targeting university areas that have criminal justice degrees and putting our message out across the state to those. It'll be able to track that through social media. The effectiveness of a radio ad, I'm no expert in how to track that effectiveness, but that's just one of those ways that you don't know on the way to work some morning that somebody that maybe is disgruntled with their line of work would say, why don't I give it a chance? So I'm looking at a broad net that I'd like to cast out and utilize every opportunity to get everybody. Basically, it's to get the message out that we're a great place to work. See how we reap the rewards.
I only ask that because I know going forward we'll need to do this ongoingly and make it most effective.
Councilman Mealy?
There's a lot of surrounding communities that are doing a heck of a lot of advertising in your field, and I assume that you're trying to meet them where they are in a sense to recruit a pool that's probably everybody's same pool.
It is challenging, especially in central Missouri. It's not like you're in the St. Louis region or Kansas City region where you've got multiple agencies that can job hop. We're pretty isolated here, and it's limited to the agencies that are involved. So that's also part of my strategy, is to reach outside of our central Missouri region and to those that maybe work in a bigger city that maybe don't enjoy working there anymore. And my message is three-pronged. It's to sell our department it's to sell our profession, and it's to sell our city. And I think we've got a great package with all three of those. It's just a matter of putting that information out there, because I would throw Jeff City up there as one of the best places to live in the state. That story, I think, needs to be told. We've got a great police department. We've got a great profession. Profession part's the issue is trying to sell people that want to do this job. So the marketing campaign will address those three issues.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we're gonna need a roll call vote.
Neely,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Bill passes.
Right, takes us to 2023-035.
Ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with BMP Patterson for the Veith Drive sidewalk project.
Fresh.
Thank you. As Clark indicated, a sidewalk project is actually occurring in 3 locations, one on Beach Drive, but also a small piece on Dix near the Greenway to make a connection up towards the Boulevard, Missouri Boulevard, and then a bus stop sidewalk connection over by Lowe's. You have to answer your question.
Seeing no questions, roll call vote.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Bill passes.
All right, item G, 2023-036.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the Transit Division Manager to apply for federal financial assistance on behalf of the City of Jefferson and to execute any contracts resulting from such application for any grants between the City of Jefferson and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, providing for capital, operating, and/or marketing assistance comprised of federal funds to be expended for commission-approved transit projects.
Keep me busy, Mr. Morash.
Yeah, and that was quite a mouthful there. But that's what's required, that we have a ordinance that indicates those things to allow our transit director, Jerry Stegman, to apply for FTA grants. And in this case, we would target the buses for that funds. And the grant's approximately $450,000 we're hoping for, and $90,000 of matching, transit matching fund. So it's a multi-year issue, but happy to answer the questions.
Councilman Allers.
3 buses? Is that what?
Right, hoping 4 in this pool. Now, these are smaller footprint buses, so it's not, you wouldn't think of our maybe our larger route buses. It's a little different.
Seeing no other questions, roll call vote, please.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Bill passes.
All right, item H, 2023-037.
Amending the 2022-2023 budget by reclassifying the cultural arts specialist to program manager, full-time position within the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Mr. Spalding.
Thank you. We would like to reclassify this specialist position, which is an hourly position, into a full-time exempt position in our department. We've noticed over the last 2 years with the increased responsibilities in our arts program and what the community has asked us to do, a lot more work, things including our master plan and some of the different positions, or different events that we do, such as like Porch Fest and things. So we would ask that this be reclassified and amend our budget. The impact would be, the financial impact would be about $3,180 savings.
All right, questions on 037? Roll call vote, please.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Bill passes.
Thank you. Item I, 2023-038.
Amending the 2022-2023 budget by reclassifying the recreation specialist to program manager, full-time position within the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Mr. Spalding.
All right, thank you. This is to reclassify our hourly recreation specialist that's in charge of special populations, programs, working with Special Olympics and all the different programs that go along with that, as well as our concession stand programs that we do at all our different facilities. So this would be taking this position from an hourly position and moving it into a full-time exempt position as well. And we feel like the savings on that will be about $1,221 per year.
Any questions? All right, you have item 038 before you. Roll call vote, please.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Neely.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
It passes.
Item J, 2023-039 was withdrawn. Takes us to item 13A, 2023-017, informal calendar.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri terminating a license agreement with Bird Rides Incorporated for a shared active transportation operation.
Mr. Bowman, do you have any?
Nothing of substance to add, but I was in communication with Ms. Floodman, who I see is on the line with us today. Bird has kind of unilaterally put a slow zone on High Street between Jefferson and Monroe, and I think they're looking to see some improved conditions in that. So they have placed that on there. That should have been, she said it was active today. So I have nothing to add other than if this were to die tonight on the informal calendar, I think the plan is to bring that back through the committee process with some amendments to the agreement that we are working on. Communication with Bird. See what the future holds for that agreement, but that's something that we'll be working on this fall.
Councilman Spencer.
No action taken.
All right. Takes us to item 14, resolutions. Item A, resolution 2023-17.
A resolution authorizing the City of Jefferson to contract with Show Me State Air Show Incorporated to permit an air show at the Jefferson City Memorial Airport.
Mr. Moraes.
Yeah, thank you. So as the clerk indicated, this would approve an air show agreement for our airport. I believe it's planned to be September 15th through the 17th. And obviously be supported by many city staff, public works, PD, fire department, etc. And the organizer, I believe, is here, Penny. And any particular questions, we can go to her.
If you want to make a brief comment, if you'd just identify yourself.
Hi, I am Penny Smith. I am the Air Show Director of the Show Me State Air Show. I am very grateful to the city for letting us do this here at the Jefferson City Memorial Airport. It is September 16 and 17. And the whole goal is to celebrate our military and former military individuals at the event. It's very much community oriented. We are working with the Jeff City High School, Helias, Boy Scouts, cadets, the Navy Sea Cadets, the Civil Air Patrol. We are working with Whiteman, Fort Leonard Wood, Rosecrans and St. Joe, our own Missouri National Guard. It is awesome working with all these people. And we have been really well received by the businesses here in Jefferson City and Central Missouri. They've been very supportive financially, in kind, and otherwise. It's been wonderful. Just wanted to say thank you. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Questions? Councilman Spencer.
It's not really a question, it's just an appreciation for all the hard work that it takes on your behalf and in the community to pull something like this off. So really thank you for your
I
efforts.
appreciate that. It does. It takes a large group of people to make this happen.
Councilman Wright.
How many airplanes do you anticipate being at the show?
So typically, average is around 13, 14 planes. It just depends on how many military. They're always the last 2 weeks when we get a commitment for that. So it depends on how many of those we get.
Thank you.
I know we have Chairman Reisick in the back in his normal chair. Thank you for all your support for the airport.
Thank you.
All right, we will, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We will need a motion if you want to push this forward.
So moved.
Second. We got a motion and a second. Any other comments, questions? Do a roll call vote, please.
Wright,
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Resolution is adopted.
Thank you. Takes us to item B, resolution 2023-18.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to apply for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant.
Mr. Moran.
Thank you. And the next 6 resolutions are all about the same type grants, TAP grants, transportation alternative program grants. They're not in any particular order. They'll have to be ordered later by Campo in a mix with our other Campo partners that are applying. But basically, just the name is supposed to be descriptive of kind of location or maybe some near streets. We do have some schematics of where these could lie, just to kind of get a feel for the cost. And I don't have those to show tonight. I do have some small diagrams here, but certainly you could contact our engineering department and they would be able to explain those in more detail, but there's a lot more work to come. This is just putting the application together. This is one item in that application that would have to have a resolution by the governing body to apply for the grant. If it indicates side path, that basically means it's basically probably a 10-foot wide concrete path next to a street. So hence the term side path. That's a bit of a new term for Jefferson City that we are using in the master plan. It indicates a trail. It's probably off the street, more or less, mostly off the street. And of course, sidewalk, everyone understands that, I believe. But be happy to answer any questions about any of them, of course. But the first one would be, and I'll be basically very brief on all of them. But if you have a question, please feel free to answer. But 18th is the one on Bolivar Street near 3-Story Coffee, fire station, etc. Making that connection.
We have 18 on the table. Questions? Councilman Allers?
If they're all about the same applying for the different TAP grants, Mr. Mayor, would it be wise or something that we can just approve them all in one motion that they go forward? Because I think you said they will come at different times and all that, but if we have the approval from the council for those to be set in motion to go ahead and do that, is that a wise thing, or is it an individual each one?
We need to do each of them individually.
Thank you.
I move to approve, Mayor.
All right, we got a motion to approve each and a second. We will do a roll call vote.
Allers. Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley. Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Resolution adopted.
All right, 2023-19.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to apply for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant.
Mr. Moran?
Thank you. And this one's called the Colonial Hills Trail, but that's basically mostly an off-street path that goes through a subdivision yet to be developed there at Ridgecrest and ends up over on some city property adjacent to Bunker Hill.
I move to approve, Mayor.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Roll call vote, please.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester. Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Resolution adopted.
All right. Item D, resolution 2023-20.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to apply for a Transportation Alternatives Program grant.
Mr. Moran?
Thank you. And this particular one's for a side path, which is the wide sidewalk or wide trail next to a street off South Country Club, basically from Fairgrounds to Turtle Creek.
I move to approve.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy.
Aye.
Schwartz. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Resolution adopted.
All right, takes us to item E, resolution 2023-21.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to apply for a transportation alternatives program grant.
Thank you, and this one's for a trail and a sidewalk associated with a potential project at Stadium in Satinwood. Yeah, can you answer any questions?
I move to approve.
You got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Lester. Mealy. Schwartz. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon. Hensley.
Aye.
Resolution adopted.
Item F, resolution 2023-22.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to apply for a transportation alternatives program grant.
Morales.
Thank you. This is a trail, and it would basically pick up where the previous one left off near Satinwood and work its way from Linwood to Edgewood.
I move to approve.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Mealy. Schwartz. Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Resolution adopted.
All right, item G, resolution 2023-23.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to apply for a transportation alternatives program grant.
Morales,
Yeah,
last time.
one. The trail, this we call it trail, but it's called the Boggs Creek Trail, and it go from McCarty, St. Louis Road area over to Riverside Park off street system.
I move to approve.
Second.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, before we vote,
Councilman Deacon.
I would like to thank the Vetter family for donating the land to the parks, to the city, whomever, to make all this possible. Really better, I mean, they were really nice about it. No cost to us.
Councilwoman, you're.
Okay, now I move.
Upper system, Jack. Jeez.
Second.
You had 23 before you. Roll call vote, please.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Wiseman.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Allers.
Aye.
Deacon.
Aye.
Hensley.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Mealy. Resolution adopted.
All right, that takes us to item 15. Now you're welcome to come back. Just please reintroduce yourself. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comments. Thanks for being with us.
I don't know if I'm in enough copies for everybody, so, let's start with the one who actually made time to meet with me first. You're in the office, I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry that I'm saving you, but that's just because your staff needs to learn to communicate that.
No, don't blame the staff, blame me.
Okay. We also have a copy of my speech. Good evening. My name is Sasa Duff, and I'm here tonight due to my disability. I can no longer do the city's job. There is a danger to the community and for the city to putting it on landowners to maintain the city easements and alleyways. Yet, someone like me who is disabled, I have to come up here and put my business, which you will see in some of this stuff, for the world to know just to get help. It's not fair. I had surgery on the 17th because I keep asking for help and coming unheard, so here I am. I'm using my 3 minutes. I, by hand, have been cutting grass when I'm highly allergic for almost 4 years, or paying someone when I can't. I pick up nails and screws and trash out of the alleyways. I have private parking being disabled behind my place, and the cost on a fixed income is hard to maintain. There is no one but me I can count on, and yet there is no resources for me to get gas, car repairs, insurance. I go to the hospital so much that most people here in Jeff City know me by the stars on my face, if they are lucky enough to see me without my sunglasses. I say all this because I want to see people bring compassion to this town. I look out for one another. I hear so much and see so much, and yet the city doesn't see its works. Like Jordan, who answers the phones for this place, or Parker, who picks up the trash on 4th of July. And what I mean by pick up the trash, he got out of the truck, put it in the can by hand. So who am I to think that my voice will be heard? And what I mean by voice be heard, I've been trying for 4 years to figure out how to stop going to the hospital because I'm highly allergic to grass. I couldn't even bring my service dog that's supposed to be with me 24/7 tonight with me. With that, I'm gonna shut up.
We appreciate you being here. Any questions? Thank you very much. That's all we have signed up. This is to item 16, council and staff discussion. Presentation. Do we have any? New business, none that I'm aware of. Item.
New business, you said?
Alex?
New business, I'm sorry, I was just trying to.
We are at
I was wondering.
item 17, new business.
Before the council, maybe getting their thoughts and opinions on not doing the Tuesday after Labor Day council meeting. There was not a need for, we did that for the July 4th. I'm not sure how much would be taken care of between that, or would that give the city time enough to get things presented?
I don't know, I would. Sure.
I think it's gonna pose a problem. That would interfere with the discussion that we're gonna have regarding health insurance at Thursday's budget meeting.
We're on kind of a tight timetable. Assuming, depending on what the council does with it, we probably need to leave that option open. Okay. But any other comments from council?
Is that something we can take care of at a budget meeting? Since we're all convened?
I don't know the answer to that.
No, but there's also no reason you can't call a special meeting of the city council at the same time.
So we could go out of budget meeting into a special council session.
Is so you're saying on the 28th?
We're meeting on the 31st as well. The 31st is a budget meeting next Thursday. So that would work as well.
All right, the comments in front of council, what's your pleasure?
Councilman Schwartz was up.
Go ahead, Councilman Hensley.
I'm just, is it simply to avoid the post-holiday Tuesday, or is it because a bunch of people are planning to be out of town at that point, or?
Yeah, I was planning on leaving the country. So I'm not sure how that hookup might be for all that. And then going with what we did for July 4th, I thought I would bring it up for the council to entertain that and then have discussion and get their opinions. And
Still Zoom, man.
Councilman Schwartz.
Derek will say.
Not to put another crutch in the road, but it is opening night of Mizzou football on the 31st. Just
on 31st.
What is it?
So do you want to dispense with both of those meetings and then we'll just take care of it on the next Monday?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Schwartz raises an interesting point. Sitting here earlier, I realized that I might have an evening conflict on the 31st, and I was going to raise offline the prospect of potentially doing another noon meeting on the 31st to avoid any so similarly situated persons.
Okay.
You could tailgate.
Since I had one, would a 90-minute meeting on the 31st? I know it add a noon meeting, so noon to 1:30 to get our full normal amount of time for an evening meeting. Could that work for enough people to conduct the meeting? I know it would be inconvenient for some, but
are we talking about budget or
for the budget meeting
council
on the 31st?
Well, we got two items we're discussing. What we're going to do.
No, sorry.
September 5th. We've got a lot of things that we need to deal with. I mean, we can
just
take that option off the table. It's the decision of council. We have to decide that there are critical things we potentially have to do.
We could wait until Thursday to discuss and see what we're gonna do. I mean, is Thursday for budget meeting, we could discuss what we're gonna do for the September 5th together, because we only have to give how many hours notice, how many days notice of a special meeting? Like a couple days, 24 hours. So we could legitimately also do it Monday if that's the desire of the council.
What are you proposing?
Maybe we have this discussion again on Thursday about the September 5th meeting, and maybe we dispense of the August 31st evening meeting, putting it instead at noon. There's a motion on the table for that, and I believe it's been seconded, so we should vote on that, and
On the
then,
budget meeting?
Yeah.
To eliminate the evening meeting and lengthen the noon meeting.
yes, and then we can just discuss the September 5th meeting again on Thursday, see where we are.
Council take action on eliminating a council meeting at a non-council, at a budget meeting.
Yeah, we could just schedule it and go in and go in. It's just a matter of paperwork for us. It's not that big of a deal. We can have it on there and use it if we need to and not use it if we don't.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table to eliminate the budget meeting on the evening of the 31st and lengthen.
Reschedule it.
Reschedule.
Yeah, to reschedule.
Reschedule.
I don't know that that needed a motion necessarily.
I don't know. You made the motion.
I don't know that I made a motion.
Okay, you were
I
playing.
heard a motion.
Whatever happened has been seconded, so here we are, but.
So I think at this point, we would be okay just to change the meeting on the 31st to a noon meeting for 90 minutes. I do want to point out that the 28th is an evening meeting. So we will have an evening meeting for an hour and a half, and then that Thursday we would have a lunch meeting for an hour and a half. And maybe if we wait until the meeting we have this Thursday after we've had the opportunity to bring forward the things that we need to add to the budget schedule, we could then determine at that point whether there needs to be a special session of the council after that.
I think that's a fabulous idea.
September Tuesday meeting.
We do that by consensus, or do you need a motion?
So no action on the budget meeting would be necessary. I can just send out an amended agenda or schedule. And then we can kind of proceed on Thursday.
Would you like to withdraw the motion you didn't make?
Whatever it was, I withdraw it.
All right, are there any of the pending bills that are gonna be kicked back to the second meeting in September that's gonna be a problem if we eliminate the 5th?
My only question's on the Creek Bank stabilization project.
I believe we can deal with that.
Okay, so you're gonna send notice out on the budget?
I will send modified notification tomorrow.
Okay, there's nothing on the table at this point then. You'll get new email on the budget, or on the budget meetings.
Data calendar.
Anything else under new business? Takes us to item 18. We need to approve the closed session minutes from August 7th.
Motion to approve. Second.
That one will require a roll call vote.
Spencer,
Aye.
Spicer,
Aye.
Weisman,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Allers,
Aye.
Egan,
Aye.
Hensley,
Aye.
Lester,
Aye.
Mealy,
Aye.
Schwartz.
We will have any unfinished business. Councilwoman Wood.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been a fun meeting.